Welcome back to my channel. It's great to have everyone back again. In this video, I'll be doing something different. We won't actually be creating anything this time. Rather, I'll be giving my critique, my opinion on stuff, and the thing I'll be critiquing is the Doctor Who logo. So you may ask, why am I making a video like this on a channel like this, which is supposed to be all about graphics tips? Well, after I've submitted this video, I'll submit another video, which I'm just finishing off now, on how to actually create a Doctor Who logo of your own, just for fun. And it was in the process of preparing this creation video that I realised I couldn't resist talking about all the things I like or dislike about the existing Doctor Who logos. But that would have made a very long video to put that in the tutorial video, so I decided to make a separate commentary video. So you can, if you like, think of this video as being a kind of appetizer for the main course, which will be the video on how to create a Doctor Who logo. But without any further ado, I'm going to start talking about the Doctor Who logo now. So we start at the beginning with the very first Doctor Who logo, which made its appearance in 1963 with the very first Doctor played by William Hartnell. Now, obviously this logo is a minimalist design. For one thing, it's black and white, because television at that time only came in black and white. Also, it's a sans serif typeface, which further simplifies it. And generally, I think it works okay, although it's not fantastic. This is the logo that sets the stage for all the rest of the logos in the classic Doctor Who run, from 1963 to 1989, when Doctor Who was taken off television until its revival in 2005, with the exception of the Doctor Who movie of the 1990s. Every logo of that classic period puts the greatest emphasis on the word Who, with the word Doctor in a smaller typeface written above the Who. Now I do have to say, one thing that makes me uncomfortable looking at this logo is that the Who looks to me like it's been stretched, which is a classic violation of graphic design principles. Traditionally, graphic designers are taught to never distort a typeface in this way. However, it has been used wonderfully in some print material. Look at this book cover I found for the Doctor Who story The Crusaders. If I'm not mistaken, it was printed in 1965 as a hardback, just a year or two after Doctor Who first started, and I think it's an absolutely fantastic design. That flat minimalist style you see on the left panel feels almost 21st century in tone, and the logo works perfectly with it. But to summarise, I'd say it's a good start to the saga of the Doctor Who logo, modest but in the right direction. So then we move on to the next logo. This is the one which first appeared with the Patrick Troughton era, and the only real change is the change in typeface. We've gone from a sans serif typeface to a serif typeface. The typeface is apparently Times New Roman. I'm not sure why they would have made this change. Maybe they thought it looked a bit more sophisticated, I don't know. But I do feel a lot more comfortable with the sizing of the word Who compared to the word Doctor. I don't have that uncomfortable feeling of stretching that I had with the first logo. Apart from that, I don't really have anything else to say about this logo. It's obviously not particularly remarkable, and because it was used rather before my time, I don't really have any emotional attachment to it either. So let's move on to the start of the 1970s and colour television, and the Jon Pertwee era, complete with a new logo. And this is where things start to really get interesting for the first time. Whereas the two preceding logos each seem to be just two words in standard typefaces, now we are looking at a logo that's clearly been crafted with professional attention. Look at the arch on the H with its slightly alien look, the triangle cut out of the left side of the D in Doctor, to give it that 3D look. Look at the way the top bar of the T is shaped with a leading slant. These are things which give the logo character, things which give it personality, things which make it yell out, "This is Doctor Who." Think how this would have looked in the early 1970s when colour television was new. It's almost like it's trying to make people feel like they got their money's worth when they bought their new expensive colour television, for which they had to pay the BBC something like twice the licence fee of a black and white television. This is a logo which really looks like it's been done as a single act of craftsmanship, right down to each individual line and curve, rather than just something that's been rendered in a pre-existing typeface. It's unique, it has character, and this is the logo that keeps coming back. It's been reincarnated across the decades, in the Doctor Who movie of the 1990s, in DVD covers, audiobook covers, and novel covers. Although it was done in the 1970s, to my way of thinking it's something that could easily have come from the flat design era of the 21st century that we're in now. I really think it's a logo that was ahead of its time. And this is the logo we'll be exploring more in my next video, in which I'll teach you how to render it in Inkscape. But for now, on to the next logo. And this is the logo that emerged in the mid-1970s, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the logo that had the longest run on TV, being used for 7 seasons, starting with the last of the Jon Pertwee seasons, and the first 6 of the Tom Baker seasons. In other words, all of the Tom Baker seasons except for the last one. And so this makes it, in my mind, quite an important logo in the history of Doctor Who, because it had a very strong presence for many years, at the height of the programme's popularity, with its most memorable and iconic of all actors. And having said that, I have to say I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. It's the second Doctor Who logo to truly give you the feeling that someone has taken a lot of time and care in creating it. It has character, flavour, it's the first logo to use more than one colour, and also, interestingly, it's the first logo that uses elements other than the words themselves, in the form of a diamond that forms its backdrop. It's a logo I like, I think it's perfectly acceptable, and it's one that gets your attention. But at the same time, there are aspects about it that I really don't like. And to see what I mean, look at what the logo looks like in this reduced form, which is the form it was used on in the Target novelisation covers. Once you lose that peculiar geometry behind it, you're left with a rather comic book-like look. The text is just ordinary text with a bright colour and an outline, and a curve on the word Doctor that looks rather rough, like anyone playing around with text could have done it. None of the letters have any of the sophistication of the earlier logo of the Jon Pertwee era, and it does really look like it's something that's targeted at children, rather than an audience with any kind of sophistication. But, having said that, you could also argue that this just speaks to the versatility of the logo. It can be used in this reduced form to appeal to the juvenile audience, and it can also be used in this slightly more sophisticated form to appeal to the adults. But I still don't really like the shape of the word Doctor. Okay, on to the next logo. And now we're in the 1980s, John Nathan Turner has taken control of Doctor Who, he's changed the music, given it more pump, he's made the introduction into more of a Star Wars-y type one, although interestingly, this was also a period in which John Nathan Turner was trying to take the programme in a more serious direction. He felt it had gone too far in the silliness and comedy direction under the reign of Graham Williams and Douglas Adams, and he was trying to inject actual science into the stories, introducing stories based around concepts from physics, such as tachyons and entropy. And because Tom Baker didn't like this new direction, he liked the comedy and the silliness. He nicked off. But I loved this period. This was where Doctor Who changed from the way I'd always known it, and it felt fresh and wonderful. I've definitely got an emotional attachment to this introductory sequence and this logo, what you would call the neon tube logo. I just can't help liking it. It just felt new, sophisticated and wonderful to me. I had books with this logo on them, and I loved the way the logo looked on those books. I'm sure from a purely design point of view, you could say that the logo looks a bit cheesy, but I don't think it's as cheesy looking as the previous logo. When I was comparing the two logos when I was young, there was any question in my mind about which was the better logo. But having said that, I don't think it's a logo that can stand the test of time too well. It was okay in the 80s, but it feels kind of locked into that time period with its neon tubing, 80s disco look. It just doesn't have the feeling of eternity and timelessness which the logo of the Jon Pertwee era had, which is probably why the Jon Pertwee logo has been reused so many times. Also, this logo had 3 main stages of evolution. This is the one that was used in Tom Baker's last season. This is the one that was used throughout Peter Davidson's 3 seasons, and I think it was improved somewhat here, There's almost no change. The only real difference is that the lines aren't quite so thick and wide. And then there is this version of it that was used in Colin Baker's 2 seasons, and I have to say I really don't like this version, possibly because I love the original so much, but that purple is awful, and I really don't like that curve they've added to the logo. It just looks like a quick effect they've added onto a logo that's actually had a lot of time spent on it, although it might have looked okay on book covers, I suspect. But anyway, after Colin Baker left and Sylvester McCoy took over as Doctor Who, the whole introductory sequence got revamped yet again, and we get this logo, the first truly 3D animated computer graphics logo. And I don't have a great deal to say about it. I really don't like it very much. Obviously a reasonable amount of time went into designing it, but it's just too 80s looking, and I just don't like it very much. At this stage, the whole Doctor Who series was really suffering and going downhill, despite the attempt to revamp it and give it a more light-hearted feel after the overly violent Colin Baker era, and this was the last logo used in the classic Doctor Who series before it was cancelled by the BBC in 1989. And then we get to the made-for-television Doctor Who the movie that was made in 1996 by BBC Worldwide in collaboration with Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, and the American Fox Television Network. This was the only television production of Doctor Who that was made between 1990 and 2005, and I always find it interesting that 15-year period in which Doctor Who was in hiatus was the period where there was an explosion in other science fiction TV shows. This was the period in which the American Star Trek had its golden era, with such wonderful incarnations as The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. And there were a whole bunch of other awesome TV shows from America. Babylon 5, Earth 2, The X-Files, Battlestar Galactica was redone in 2003, I think it was. There was Farscape. So many marvellous speculative fiction programs on television at this time. I was a student at the time, and one of my classmates put it to me very simply to me once. There's so many space things on TV at the moment. So it's not surprising, I think, that an attempt to revive Doctor Who came from America. It wasn't successful, but I think the very successful new BBC series that started in 2005 owes quite a bit to it. The introductory sequence of the 2005 series was very much inspired by this one here, I believe, from the Doctor Who movie. And the Doctor Who movie showed how the programme could go in new directions. And of course, they had the brilliant insight to bring back the early 1970s logo, and they did a terrific job of restyling it. They made the characters just a little less bold, they made it 3D in a way that wasn't too camp, and they even improved on some of the characters. See how the slant on the T has now been extended to the C as well, so that it looks like the two letters are connected, but not quite. And see how that same slant has also been applied to the D. It's a lovely example of how an already wonderful design from decades ago has been taken that little bit further, almost like a kind of natural evolution. Absolutely brilliant. And this is the style in which this logo appears in most of its reincarnations since this time. So the Doctor Who movie made, I think, a tremendous contribution in many ways to the whole mythos of Doctor Who, including the design of the logo. Okay, so now on to the new century, and the new series, and the new logo. And, as you would expect for a new science fiction show in 2005, the logo looks very modernised, very sophisticated, and I think in general a wonderful design. It's the design that was used throughout both Christopher Eccleston's and David Tennant's seasons. In the last of David Tennant's season, starting in 2008, the logo became more fiery, and I absolutely love it. Whenever I see it, it makes me think of the Eye of Sauron from the Lord of the Rings movies, with that feeling of power and mystery and danger. The logo looks like a window that's just slowly opening onto a world of danger and adventure. I love the minimalist typeface, and the way it just beautifully locks with the graphic. I think it's an absolutely superb design. And this is also the logo which I think marks another milestone in the history of the Doctor Who logo. Notice how the emphasis is no longer on the word Who. In every logo from the classic series, the word Who is shown being much bigger, with the word Doctor along the top. With the new series of the new century, the logo breaks that tradition and from now on, every logo we see will be a horizontal logo, with the words Doctor and Who put side by side with equal emphasis. A new style for a new logo. So again, to summarise, I think this is a superb logo, but I think it doesn't have the timelessness of the John Pertwee and Paul McGann logo, and for that reason, I think that's the logo that will keep coming back. So now we go to the period where Matt Smith took over as Doctor Who, and Stephen Moffat took over as executive producer, and we've done away with the background graphic. We've changed the typeface, and we've added this little graphic between the words Doctor and Who, which is made of the letters D and W in the shape of the TARDIS, with a little light on top. Quite a dramatic change with the new Doctor, and perhaps influenced by changing trends in logo design in general. This was, I believe, the period in which logos in general in those days were becoming more flat and minimalist, partly influenced by the smartphone revolution which was taking place at the time. The font is a bit more characteristic than the previous logos, and that graphic in the middle is one that, if you watch the whole introductory sequence, is one that actually animates itself into a flying TARDIS. But I have to say, I really don't like this logo very much. It's an acceptable logo for the time, but there's nothing wonderful about it. The TARDIS in the middle looks just too gimmicky to me. It doesn't even look that much like a TARDIS. It takes me a long time to see the TARDIS, and it takes me time to recognise the D and the W as those letters. I don't really like the font, it just feels weak to me, and the logo in general really doesn't do much to convey the spirit of the series. Well, I suppose you could say it reflects more of the light-hearted aspects of Doctor Who with that little flying TARDIS graphic. It is clever, and it's capturing something that's iconic from the series, but so many logos do that. Lots of logos for chiropractic businesses, for example, use graphics of hands touching human figures. This isn't just some little business we're doing a logo for. This is Doctor Who. It really needs to be powerful and conveying a real feeling of the mythos. So then we go into the next logo, also from the Matt Smith era, and they've quite sensibly, to my mind, got rid of the silly TARDIS graphic, and we're just left with the words Doctor Who and nothing else. The only thing that really relates it to the previous graphic is that they've kept the same typeface. And it's effective. It works well with the introductory sequence, but I don't have much more to say about it than that. Then we go on to the Peter Capaldi series logo, and the only difference between this logo and the previous one is that they've changed the texture from that granite-like texture they used in the Matt Smith version to this metallic steel texture. And again, it's good. It works perfectly with the lovely new introductory sequence, which is all themed on machinery and clock parts. But again, the logo by itself is just rather boring, I think, and there's nothing really special or wonderful about it. Then finally we get to the current logo, which made its first appearance in 2018 with Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. I'm not sure what to make of this one. It's very Game of Thrones-like, with that thin golden beveled typeface, and those lines extending from the letters. Dare I say it, I think it's a lot more feminine. And something else I just noticed. Look at that purple haze in the background of the logo. It forms the same shape as the 2005 logo. And this gives the logo a whole new feel once you see that. I think it's an improvement over the previous 3 logos, but I do think it's not a logo that can stand the test of time. And it's nowhere near as powerful, I think, as this, or this. So to summarise, which logo do I like the best? Well, I don't think I can name just one as my favourite. There are several which I really adore for different reasons, and I'll tell you about each of them. So as you've probably already guessed, I really like this one. It was the first Doctor Who logo to be truly iconic, and it stood the test of time. I think we can say it's the one Doctor Who logo that is truly timeless. For the pure, objective elegance of its design, I have to include this one as being among my favourites. And I also have to include this one. It may be due to the nostalgic affection I have for it, but I really never get tired of looking at it. I really love this logo. And I think this one is just brilliant in the way it conveys the excitement of the series in a way which I don't think any other quite has. I love it, and I have to include it. And finally, though I debated a bit about whether to call this one of my favourites, I think I have to. Even though it's a bit camp, it stood the test of time for many years of one of the most successful periods in Doctor Who history. I don't like it as much as the other three, but this was well and truly the official Doctor Who logo for a longer time than any other, for 7 years, and I think it's earned its place. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you very much for persisting through all my babbling on. You are gods, in my opinion. And in the next video, which I've already finished and will be releasing very soon, I'll teach you how to create your own Doctor Who logo using the free Inkscape software. Before I go, I should just say that all the logo screenshots presented in this video are taken from the video entitled All Doctor Who Title Sequences, available on the official Doctor Who YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link to in the description. I'm very grateful to that channel, and I strongly encourage anyone watching to go and check it out to get a far more enriching Doctor Who experience. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please give it a like, subscribe or leave a comment, and I will see you in the future. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.